Something I don't know if I should bring up. It is a bit speculative with regards to Schuler tuning, but it can work on a flat Earth. So we have them by the balls either way, I think. How it can be conceived, since Schuler tuning is really just a rhythmic period, it gets factored into the uh, the aircraft's velocity or like the ship's heading and speed. Um, and it's based on the dimensions of a globe as conceptualized and basically turned into a sine wave, the globe shape and gravity together. And so, if hypothetically, if the surface of flat Earth is a two-dimensional sphere without an embedding space, or with a higher dimensional embedding space in 3 dimensions, then Schuler tuning is just expressing the periodicity at which that manifold loops back on in itself and repeats itself. So you could introduce Schuler tuning and have it work on a flat surface that loops with periodicity. They're cooked either way, I guess, is the point. Even if they could produce, and so I don't think Earth, maybe flat Earth is really that case, but if it turns out to be, then we still have an impasse before us. They still don't have globe proof. It's interesting. Like if you were to screw with the Schuler tuning component of these inertial navigation systems, you could throw the thing wildly off course, even though all the other instrumentation should show that it's on course. It kind of makes me think about like arms control and missile guidance systems and rockets and things like this. These really highly sensitive things. NASA rockets or weapons, even rockets as weapons. If you sell something that has fucked up Schuler tuning in it, then you sell something that's slightly degraded. Or if you sell something that has Schuler tuning at all, because the person buying it from you think Earth is a globe. Like you could have like a switch, right? That maybe like in wartime somebody flicks. Like, we got to turn Schuler tuning off, folks. It's wartime. We're going to operate on flat Earth battlefield. You could conceivably have that controlled by like a radio signal or something like that, like on a satellite, right? You could have a satellite broadcast a special code, bleep, 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 and then like all the hardware that is configured to listen for it says, oh, okay, we're turning Schuler tuning off. It's flat Earth battlefield time. We need to increase the accuracy of our weapon systems. There's so many crazy cases you can come up with, in regards to this application. I could totally see the potential upon learning about this recently. See the potential for this to be somewhat sensitive, and maybe the reason why we can't find any public data about Schuler tuning. Wow, Drace brought up a good point. Yep. What if you wanted to crash a plane into the ground? You make it think it's navigating around a ball. Turn on that Schuler tuning. Up, crash, kabloom. I got to think too that some of the devices like drones, high altitude platforms like balloons, and even if you want to go with conventional satellites, they have what's called star trackers on them to maintain orientation. They use star trackers for navigation purposes, essentially, and for maintaining orientation in their local reference frames. Well, looking into these star trackers the past couple weeks, they're all celestial field coordinates that are not based on a sphere. They're based on a fucking XYZ axis box. So there's no rotational vector with respect to down around a globe. This coordinate reference system operates independent of what Earth's shape is. There's one called the Gaia system. That seems to be the most popular one. Something called the Gaia star tracking system is Cartesian, XYZ, star box, not a not a celestial sphere. So I'm just thinking, like, what if they put Schuler tuning in these, and then they put the Starbox tracker on these too? And yeah, I mean, you could make the Schuler tuning mechanism not do shit, and you put it in so that people who are coping with the globe just feel better about having it. It's kind of like giving a competitive sniper a Coriolis calculator so that he can punch in all the numbers and improve his accuracy, even though it doesn't do shit either. Yeah, I like what Drace just said. So Schuler tuning, the box, it would be installed and running, but not using its calculations until triggered. That would be why the pilot who had it removed had no issues. But when they do send the signal, it cause the autopilot to crash. Yeah, I mean, could it be? I mean, speculation here. Like, what if these devices are installed in all these boxes of everything all over the Earth? And I mean, imagine the kind of power and control you would have if you had the ability to turn on and off such a correction system and didn't tell anybody about it. Kind of like a sleeping computer virus that gets activated when a signal is received. I mean, there might be some serious shit going on with this, and I don't know. I don't know if we should be talking about it. um, Kind of amazing what you can stumble upon. Well, I guess the thing is though, these people claim to have this stuff installed everywhere. So they have like in flight crew manuals. I found a presentation deck a few weeks ago for the flight crew, not for the pilots, but for the crew, and it was a PowerPoint deck that had a couple slides on Schuler tuning of all things, and the air data inertial reference unit. It was just for situational awareness, just inform them that hey, look, this is the device that does that. Without it, this happens. So they're telling everybody it's in all these things, and it didn't do shit for that one 777 pilot. The plane operated the same without it as it had with it. All the flat Earth instrumentation worked just fine. All the wonderful Euclidean, Cartesian mathematics, the angles, the flat linear angles, and everything of elevation and azimuth, all that worked just fine over thousands of miles. Schuler tuning is supposed to provide basically instantaneous corrections. If you remember, I don't know, some of you guys may be old enough to remember the first commercially available GPS devices like the TomToms and the Garmins. You'd set them up on your dashboard, and the initial ones were kind of good. Sometimes your little car on the map would not be tracking directly on the road, and you'd have to wait a while, and eventually it would snap to it again. And then sometimes it'd get off course, and then it would snap to the road again. So you may find yourself looking down at that map, and your car looks like it's in the water when you're actually on a bridge, and then it would snap to it. So I think you can envision Schuler tuning as being something like that. It is correcting for map distance, not real world distance. And so while you're actually driving on a bridge, if you're using something like a spherical grid where your great circle route is bending, even though you're going basically in a flat linear distance, there's going to have to be a mathematical snap to the grid going on. And that's what Schuler tuning does. Schuler tuning is snapping everything to the spherical grid from a planar. That might be one of the best ways to think about this. This is new, folks. I haven't had a lot of experience talking about this, and it's a new topic for me. So I'm just kind of spitballing here, coming up with different ways to present this idea. Schuler tuning is snapping to a spherical grid. Where you are, when you look around locally, fits the map that they might be using globally, WGS 84. One of these things is not like the other. Yeah, Schuler tuning is entirely software driven. It is not, mathematically, it's described like I did with the pendulum, but it's really just a frequency harmonic. 84.4 minute period. It's a big sine wave that takes 84.4 minutes to come back to where it started again. So you can kind of picture a graph and a sine wave going up and down and up and down, and the up cycle takes 84.4 minutes. And they just install this harmonic, and it magically, like, it's really brilliant actually. No matter what heading you're going, no matter what velocity you're going, no matter even what altitude you're at, it's going to work. It's going to correct you mathematically for the rotational vector going around a ball. The German guy who came up with this in the 1920s, the brilliant man, around the time they were doing rocket development, wasn't it? Huh. But it wasn't used in aeronautics, not in a widespread fashion, until after the Apollo missions. So that means older airplanes that did not have software components like they do today, especially the ones that had mechanical gyroscopes, mechanical navigation systems, flywheels, pendulous vanes, and all that, they were operating under pure real-world Newtonian mechanics and principles. Agent is asking, basically, if it was designed for ships initially or submarines. I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna have to go back and check. I know I've got this old Northrop Grumman inertial navigation system manual, which is interesting in and of itself. I'm gonna have to check to see if they employ Schuler tuning. But I initially grabbed that manual because it talks about how to calibrate the gyro compass. You know how globies like to say that they're these mechanical gyro compasses. In this case, it's actually a fiber optic gyro compass. How they automatically point towards the North Pole if you let them oscillate a long time. Well, this manual says don't do that because it's not going to work. And to manually get your initial calibration, either by punching in your latitude and longitude and your orientation, or slaving it to other systems to feed it navigation data so that it can compute it itself and then get started, basically said don't let it run on its own. It's not going to work. It's not going to seek north on its own. So, I mean, I'd imagine too, ships, in particular submarines, would need something, if Earth is a globe, would need something to account for curvature. You're trying to maintain a certain depth, and you're going over the abyssal plains underneath the was it the Pacific or Indian Oceans? Yeah, you're going to need to track with Earth curvature, and you're going to need to maintain down, and you're all disoriented underwater because you're not doing anything visually. So yeah, maybe they tell the crew, hey, we got Schuler tuning, folks. You don't have to worry about going straight in the sub long enough and coming out of the water. The submarine is going to automatically reorient itself with respect to down electronically. It's cool, guys. We got it. Fly by wire, drive by wire. Schuler tuning will feed into the rudder and into the freaking whatever elevators you call them on the subs. It's going to maintain down, folks. We got this. Probably started with some annoying crewmate asking this exact question. Exactly right. Some crewmate with a NASA fucking shirt's like, but if Earth is a globe and we got these gyroscopes, don't we have to orient the horizontal reference plane with respect to down? Why, yes, Billy. We have something called Schuler tuning. Schuler tuning takes care of it automatically, Billy. No problem. You see, Schuler tuning, Billy, helps the submarine system stay accurate as it floats over the Earth curvature, rotating the horizontal reference surface by using a mathematical model of a giant pendulum with a length equal to Earth's radius, and it swings every 84.4 minutes. See, Billy, this conceptual pendulum just mimics how gravity and the Earth's rotation affect the horizontal plane's motion, particularly the rotational vector, the angular velocity that we measure with our ship's gyroscopes, Billy. If we tune the Schuler tuning mechanism to match this, it'll adjust for Earth's curvature and spin, and it makes our navigation error so small, and it basically snaps to that spherical coordinate reference grid that you know and love, Mr. Billy. Oh, geez. Yeah, this Schuler tuning, folks, has been one of the coolest rabbit holes I've gone down. It's like, we ask globies all the time for their evidence of the rotational vector. Nobody's come up with Schuler tuning, and meanwhile, we've been sitting on this whole time because we know what we're asking for, and they don't. And we get flummoxed and they can't produce it. Maybe it's because we've looked and we thought it might be there too, but nope, we know it's not out there. Just like the Earth's radius measurement doesn't exist, just like those curvature measurements don't exist. We got nothing to validate that Schuler tuning even exists. Because it's all part of the same thing. Yeah, Schuler tuning is directly related to curvature and gravity. Directly related. All right, I heard somebody go, ba-ding. Who's showing up? No. It's funny because the whole concept of Schuler tuning is to correct for errors that they claim would show up if Earth was a globe, which means those errors don't actually exist in reality. If they could produce those actual errors that they say would happen if Earth is a globe as a result of using their Euclidean angle measuring devices to track their heading and elevation, that means that they're measuring Earth curvature. So if they could produce those errors that they claim exist in the first place that Schuler tuning corrects for, that means they would have an Earth curvature measurement to produce. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right. And they don't. So we're still fundamentally asking the same question we've been asking as a community for 10 years. Who measured it, how and when? So if Schuler tuning is real, show us the errors that show up as a result of using Euclidean geometry. Show us the mismatch between planar and spherical. Show us that curvature measurement. You know, the more I talk this through, the more I'm like, this Schuler tuning probably is a canard. It's not actually being used anywhere.
So let me flip that script on you a moment. I'm obviously late into the conversation, but the other end of this is, on one hand, GTs tell us, oh, well, we've got this software program that can tell us where a satellite's going to be 20 years from now. However, every day, NASA and other organizations send out what's called Keplerian elements to show where the satellites actually are.
Right.
So without that day's update, you can't follow it. So,
Keplerian coordinate system, though.
Say again.
Yeah. So how they send up those updates is they use angular tracking on the ground, and then they tell the satellites where they are in Kepler coordinates.
Yes, and so I think that more or less they're published once a day, but I think they actually update them internally. I think every 8 hours, or maybe it's every 6. So somebody can probably fact check that.
Yeah.
But point being that, like you're showing the opposite. Well, you know, more or less the inverse, because they both add up to 1. And the fact being that if you have to have an update where a satellite is every day, that's probably because they're pretending that it's big ball-tard. And yeah,
I think Schuler tuning is a way to make everything compatible with everything global. It's compatible with WGS84. It's compatible with Keplerian orbital elements with respect to WGS84 coordinates. So, you know, the Keplerian orbital elements don't presume a dimension to Earth at all. They treat it as a point. But
correct.
But you can map it to the surface by just expanding a reference ellipsoid inside from that point, and then do the transformations. And KOE, right, is just one coordinate system. It's a mathematical model. It's kinematic, not dynamic. So you could easily employ. And what's really interesting is they use like an Earth-based Keplerian orbital reference system. So even though Kepler envisioned the solar system with the sun in the center, they can do all kinds of conversions. They could conceivably put the satellite's Keplerian orbital elements into a sun-centered instead of Earth-centered like they normally do frame of reference. It's going to look all effed up, but it's going to work.
Yep.
Yeah. Long before George Norrie screwed up Coast to Coast AM, I used to enjoy listening to that back in the day. And back when Art Bell and some others ran the show. Yeah. And somewhere about 2005, 2004, they had a guest who his name was UFO Phil. And he'd come up with some entertaining content for a while. And one of his things that I still get a laugh out of, and I'm going to do with my twins sometime soon, is we're going to build a time machine. And so his time machine actually did work. It's really cool. You get in it, it takes you 5 minutes into the future. And to his credit, it doesn't take you any longer than 5 minutes to get there, but they're still working on getting it a little quicker than 5 minutes. And every time I hear them talk about corrections for this and that because of the globe tard, I think back to his 5-minute time machine that takes 5 minutes to get there.
Yeah, I think there's an obvious relationship here with Schuler tuning because it's a frequency, it's a harmonic, it's a time component. So if you're correcting geometry in 3 space over time, you can alter time as well as space dimensionally using mathematics to correct 4 positions. And then you can call that like relativity corrections, right?
Right. Yeah, like when you start out in your college level math classes, they start throwing you off and talking about negative time, this and that. And then, of course, it's the setup to the fact that you can't have negative time, but yet they you get on to see other places that do calculations where they've got negative time and all sorts of other stuff that can't exist. For the globe that don't rely on uh, undisclosed error correction. And when I say undisclosed error correction, like the Keplerian elements, you have your formulas for how you use those Keplerian elements. So GT will tell you, oh, well, we got mathematics for where satellites are, but they don't disclose exactly how those values were derived. They kind of do, but they kind of don't. But as far as the person taking those elements and using them, they just get them from a black box, which is called NASA, which we learned yesterday morning must be true because it came from a .gov website. So what formulas, what formulations are actually used in talking about various aspects of the Earth that don't have these black box error corrections?
National Hamburger Day.